and welcome to this episode of Round Robin. Today we're going to be talking about library programs and even those for the youngest kids before they can even read. My guest today is Caitlin Flanagan, children's librarian for the Hampton Public Library, and you work out of the main branch, is that right, Caitlin?
Right, I'm at the main library.
And a lot of the programs are there, but you guys also do a lot more outreach than I had realized.
We do. We have several outreach programs. Our largest program is the Mother Read, Father Read program. And really, that's just a program that goes out into the Title I schools here in the city of Hampton. And what it's based on is outstanding children's literature. And what happens is the parent or caregiver and the child come to the school in the evening, and we separate them, and the children are in one group and the parents or caregivers are in another group. And we each, in those groups, discuss one outstanding title of children's literature. And the parents really focus on how they can use storytelling and use picture books as a way to resolve challenging family issues at home. And the kids group really just focuses on, reading the story, and then they usually do a craft. And then we come back together, the two groups, at the end of the night, and we discuss the book as families, and then they get to have a meal, and at the end they get to take the book home with them, and it really helps build their home libraries, and that's definitely an important part of becoming a lifelong learner.
So that program is, what are the ages of children in that?
It's for elementary school kids.
So they're reading independently, but they probably need some help.
Right.
And so that's a really good example. That's one of the programs that is designed to do several things, really. Help kids learn to read, help kids enjoy reading, and help the family support that and have the resources, the books at home, or bring kids into the library.
Exactly.
But now you start with little kids, right? What's the youngest kid who can come into the library and begin hearing stories?
Any age is a good time to start reading. We have a program called Baby Garden, which is for 0 to 24 months. And what that is the parents or the caregiver come in with their baby, and we use picture books, board books, felt board, storytelling, rhymes, songs. We use everything that we can to really get the point across, not only to the baby that this is a fun time at the library, but also to the parents. We give them the tools that they need to take home, such as sharing a story with their child every night. We really, give them the tools that they need to do that at the home.
I think that's something that young first-time parents don't always think about is, I know I was babysitting a kid who was about 6 months old, and we were reading a book. And of course, it was one book, and we went through it a whole bunch of times. And sometimes she looked at the pictures, and sometimes she didn't, but it was still that sing-songy repetition, just the idea of reading.
Right.
How do you get that across to a child? If you're a librarian or if you're a parent or grandparent at home, what are some tips about working with the youngest kids?
Just exposing them to books. And board books are a great thing to have for the really tiny ones. Even if they are chewing on a board book, at least they are holding it, they're into it, they're interested in it. Even if they're holding the book upside down, encourage them to be around books.
I think one of the hardest things for the parents is, at that age, they don't necessarily want variety. I mean, there might be one book that they like, and they might want it, 50 times a day.
One book, that is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And do you ever have kids who point to things in the book and then make up their own story? Like, it isn't necessarily about the words at that age.
Right, that's a great thing. That's what we call narrative skills. That means that they're interested in storytelling, and they understand that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to a story, and that's very important. It's an early learning skill, and they need it in order to become readers when they end up going to school.
Okay, so that's the baby age. What do you do for toddlers? And they're a tough group because they don't sit still very long.
Right, toddlers, we definitely have to be more interactive. We have to give them more kind of craft times, more games. We do games with them in that age group, and that really helps them kind of stay focused because they might stay still for about 5 minutes and then it's on to the next thing. So we really try to have activities for them as well as books.
Okay. And then you get to the pre-reader stage, is that what you call it?
Right. Preschool Pals is a program that we have at the main library, and that's for children that are 3 to 5 that are getting ready to go to school. And we really start looking at letters, and each letter has its own sound, and we're also sharing stories and doing activities, but we definitely focus on letters more.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes. We try to give the literacy skills to whatever age group we have coming to the library, because one of the missions of the Hampton Public Library is to help develop lifelong learners, and part of that is early literacy.
That's amazing. I think of it, and I think a lot of people think of it as a place where you go check out books and don't realize the amount of interactive programming that you guys have going on.
Yeah, we're much more than books. We have programs and even just the space. I mean, we have young family centers, which we have through our Healthy Families Partnership through the city. And that's just a space that's for early learners, early literacy space that has board books, picture books, and we also have a section just for parents about parenting. Anything from, child nutrition to behavioral science, anything that has to do with parenting, we have resources for parents too.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now when the kids are school age and they're beginning to be independent readers, what programs do you offer?
Well, we recently started a fun program called the Lego Club, and really that's kind of focused at the kids that they've become readers, but they're maybe not so interested in it. So we have Lego Club, and each month we have a different theme. Sometimes the theme is cities, sometimes the theme is transportation, and what I do is I pull books and movies and CDs about that subject, and we kind of go over that subject, and then they get to build whatever they want for an hour. And I do encourage them to use the books to get ideas to build whatever their Lego creation will be.
That's great, because there are certain kids who just really don't sit down well, but while they're doing things, they can also hear. They can take it in. They just can't sit still while they're trying to focus.
Right.
Has that been popular? I know that's a fairly recent program.
That's been very popular. It's been a great program. We've got a lot of good feedback about that program.
Okay. And I know, when kids are little is a particular time when parents just can't keep them in books. I mean, they go through them pretty quickly, even if they're reading them several times. So I think you get a lot of people in the door and get used to that reading habit.
Exactly.
Now, teenagers, you have an interesting program that's a little bit different for teens. How does that work?
Yes, we just started, it's a book to film club for teens. It's Teen Book to Film. And what that is the teen reads whatever book that we're going to be watching that month.
It's a book club, but
it's a book club,
also,
but all the books that we read have been turned into movies. So they get to read the book, and then they come into the library and we watch the film, and of course we give them snacks. And then afterwards we discuss, what the differences were, and did they like the book better than they liked the movie, and that's been popular. That's
a really good idea, because I think that teens sometimes engage through movies and don't think about the book. Of course, then you have the wildly popular young adult and tween and teen books that are also pulling people in.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Have you seen a big waiting list for the Hunger Games, for example?
I've heard a lot about the Hunger Games. As soon as the Hunger Games comes out on DVD, we will be reading that book and watching that movie.
I'm sure you will. Is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of the kids programming, or really how to keep kids engaged in reading?
Well, there is another program I'd like to talk about, and that's our Pause to Read program, and that's for children age 6 to 10. And what that is they come in, we have it once a month. They come in and they can pick out books, and they can sit on the floor and read to trained therapy dogs. And that is a great program because it takes the pressure away from the kids. They're reading out loud, but they're reading to a dog, and a dog is not very judgmental.
That's a really interesting, when I first heard about that, I thought to myself, why does that work? Like, you don't have them read to, because they feel like they're performing. If they're reading out loud in school, or even reading to a parent, they stumble over words and feel pressured to get it right.
Exactly. So they love the dogs. They love coming in and reading to the dogs, and they get to pet them a little. And it's a really good environment.
Now, where do you get the dogs? That's great.
Therapy Dogs International is the group that we work with. All of the dogs have been trained and they're certified, and they're just a really great group. And it's been so fantastic to have them help us out.
That's wonderful. And since summer is approaching, let's talk a little bit about, you have this issue where kids read in school for 9 months out of the year, and then too many kids stop reading in the summer.
Right, it's called the summer slide. They get these skills during the school year. They get reading skills during the school year. And then when summer rolls around, there's other stuff to do, and they might not pick up a book as often as they probably should, and they start to lose those skills. And that's why we do the summer reading program, is to kind of keep the kids engaged, keep them reading. It would be like if a child was taking piano lessons and then they decided to stop for 3 months, they're going to lose those skills.
Well, during the school year, they have to read for class, and they probably have a scheduled time when they go to the school library and check out books. And then you get to the summer, and that access to books stops for some kids. So I know they're a little bit different at each of the library branches, and that's one thing that's important, is that some of the children's programs are at the main branch, but some you can go to any of the branches, and in Hampton we have enough that people are only about 3 miles away from the closest library branch. So we do try to make books very accessible to our families. And what is the commitment for a summer reading program usually? Well,
we encourage the children and their parents too. I mean, it really does lie with the parents to help them get them into the libraries, but we encourage them to come in at least once a week and set a reading goal. So by the end of the summer, they can say, I reached my reading goal, and we celebrate that when they do reach that goal.
That's great, and it's individualized. Each child or each family gets to set their own goals.
Exactly.
That's a great way to do it. Well, Caitlin, thank you so much for coming by today. Is there anything else you needed to add that I forgot about?
No, I think that's it. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks. And just remember that we have these programs. You can get more information at
our Hampton website, and it's hamptonpubliclibrary.org.
Okay. Or you can get there through hampton.gov and click on the department.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this episode of Round Robin. I hope you'll come back.